fear of death. And the fear of death is the only thing that keeps us from danger. So long as you fear death, you can stay among the living. That is what I've done.
Number 8 is the professional hitman Golgo 13, aka Duke Golgo from Golgo 13. This sniper is so manly that he kills people, gets $3 million per hit, and fucks hookers. Manly! Plus, he might be the earliest character to have manly eyebrows. Manly! Golgo 13 is so manly that he is a vagina magnet. Any woman, be it civilian or assassin, will be fucked. You're already fucked. Golgo 13 is so manly that he doesn't need facial expressions, all he needs is one stoic poker face. Golgo 13 doesn't give a fuck.
Where are you from?
Gotten yourself into some trouble. Where'd you come from and what are you doing here?
Manly! However, Golgo 13 is so manly that the only man that can kill Golgo 13 is himself. I'm not kidding.
まさか完成していたとは。この興奮。己が相手とは皮肉なものだ。
Yes! Golgo 13 needs a Terminator clone to kill himself! Fucking manly! All jokes aside, Golgo 13 is one of the eldest characters on this list and certainly provided an influence in shaping manly characters. Originally appearing in a James Bond manga, Golgo 13 made his debut in 1968 and recently retired in 2015. It's possible Golgo 13 was the first manly character to appear from Japan, or at least the oldest that I'm aware of. Sure, Lupin III is actually older than Golgo, but comparing the two, I think we can tell who's manlier. Golgo 13 even predates Lone Wolf and Cub by 2 years, and it wouldn't be till the 1980s when manly characters were in their prime. So the big question is, did Golgo 13 create or help shape manliness? For example, his stoic attitude towards danger shows his mental toughness, but this just seems like the manly way to behave. In later years, we could see characters carry this behavior such as Ogami Ito, Kenshiro, Captain Harlock, and Vampire Hunter D, etc. Golgo 13 carries the charisma of being cool, badass, and classy, while speaking with his actions and rarely with his words. Regardless of the image, Golgo 13 always looks manly, whether he's sitting in a chair, smoking a cigar, taking off his shades, or when he's wearing briefs. Surprisingly, even commercials featuring a cardboard cutout of Golgo 13 still makes him look classy. Golgo 13 is a definition of classy manliness. Classy manliness. Much of the exploits I stated thus far have been merely superficial achievements, but his characterization is all his own. Being an assassin, Golgo 13 entombed his emotion to the pits of his soul, as he'll kill anyone for the right price. This certainly drops him down a few points on the manly list, as Golgo 13 will kill any witness without a moment's hesitation, whether they're a man or a woman. Yet at the same time, this man believes in love and can be courteous or respectful to certain individuals. Depending on his client's purpose, Golgo 13 may sometimes be a savior who unintentionally delivers justice, or he can be an angel of death stealing the lives of people. But his most surprising characteristic is his resolving commitment to being a professional sniper. For the past 50 years, Duke Golgo has earned the title of the professional's professional, therefore being unmatched in the criminal underworld. While his motivations and origins are obscure, it's possible that his career choice as a hired killer may be done out of obligation or pride, or at the very least, he is a man who understands the idea of pride and would instain his title of pro among pros.
Pride is admirable, but if pride is taken too far, it becomes bitter arrogance.
In a way, Golgo 13 is a warrior of the gun who welcomes any challenge, be it a duel among gunslingers or hitting a target. Golgo 13 fulfills all of his promises. This is by far his manliest trait, as his assignments are one of trust and respect, which Duke places his life in jeopardy to fulfill a request. While he's very distant from people, Golgo will repay his debts towards those who earned his respect. The best example is possibly the best episode of the TV series, being episode 50, where Golgo 13 gets his arm injured, who is then aided by a surgeon. The dilemma here is the target is the surgeon's father. Being torn between his role as a killer and as a man, Golgo 13 then decides to gamble his shot by using his left hand. Thus, if he misses, he will spare the target's life. This is the limit of his mercy and the limitations of his manliness, as the honorable thing to do is to spare the target, but instead places his conduct as a professional killer above morality. This scenario asks the question of, what is manlier? Is it manly to follow your strict principles no matter what? Or would it bring shame to break your principles even for the sake of having your skills restored? This entire episode makes me view Golgo 13 somewhat like a samurai who holds honor and tradition in high regard, to the point of following said professional conduct as a way of life. Whether delivering mercy would be dishonorable or manly is probably up to the viewer, as Golgo 13 is anything but black or white. Despite his manly actions, Duke is stuck on number 8 due to being very heartless, as he's never shed manly tears. While he has displayed sorrow to a few individuals such as his sons, Golgo 13's loyalty is to himself and to the way of the killer, never letting his emotions interfere with his job, thus becoming a cold-blooded machine to which his enemies brand him as a modern-day Grim Reaper. In the world of manga, Golgo 13 was the longest series to keep running since its debut in 1968. It made this incredible feat purely through episodic stories starring a manly character who's shrouded in mystery. Golgo 13 has left his mark in Japan's history, as he is a Japanese icon, with the best example is Golgo promoting Japan's military. Another interesting real-life event is the contest of giving away free Seiko watches bearing the Golgo 13 emblem. Duke Togo is no longer with us, but no one will forget his icy stare or his role as a legendary manly icon. A man who descended from Golgotha, bearing a skeleton with a crown of thorns, is a professional Golgo 13. At number 7 is the wild boxer who crossed the Bridge of Tears, Yabuki Joe from Ashita no Joe. Yabuki Joe was originally a vagabond orphan, wandering from town to town, until coming across the people who would change his life. At the beginning of the story, Joe isn't really manly, and he's just an asshole. He beats up everyone he comes across and doesn't give a fuck. He even goes to juvie and knocks out everybody, except the manly Toro Rikishi.
Rikishi?
Manly! Toro Rikishi is a boxer who got arrested for assault, yet he's so manly that he knocks out bulls. Manly! The series begins to shift into boxing once Rikishi beats up Joe in a fight, thus forcing Joe to become a boxer. Their rivalry makes up a good chunk of the story, which even changes Joe's perspective on life. While much of Joe's rehabilitation occurred by his newfound family, it is Rikishi who makes Joe manly. It's only after Joe's fight with Rikishi that Joe starts to become a better person, and when he starts to develop manlier traits outside of beating the shit out of people. Although I got to admit, I always like it when he fucks people up. While Rikishi is not on the list, his manliest moment is easily the training in weight control, where he nearly killed himself by starvation and dehydration. This commitment displays how significant is the match with Joe, and once they do fight, begins to see Rikishi not as a rival, but as an irreplaceable friend. However, this match is what's changed their lives forever. Joe is then haunted by this match and begins his path of recovery, as he's struck with guilt for killing Rikishi.
過酷な減量第6ラウンド矢吹が放った全部の一撃およびダウンした際にロープで後頭部を強打したことによる脳内出血により力士という選手が死に至ったと信頼。
What first seems as a case of depression ends up becoming much more traumatic, as Joe can't shake off his accidental murder. He didn't like the idea of his kill in the ring being labeled as an accident, so he intended to go to prison and suffer for its consequences. Upon meeting Yoko, she demanded for Joe to continue boxing as a man, otherwise Joe's victims gave up their lives for nothing. Throughout the series, Joe has been described as the Grim Reaper, as just about anyone he faced ended up suffering permanent injuries. From his point of view, Joe couldn't stand being insulted by a woman and would engage in ridding himself of his fear, but that only led to more despair. Being unable to shake the ghost of Rikishi, Joe couldn't punch people in the face, resulting him to quiver to the ground and vomit. At this point, Joe is a broken man, but through Yoko becoming in charge of a gym, would fight for Rikishi's honor, therefore would seek the best boxers to bring Joe back on his feet, in which he manages against Carlos Rivera. While finding a new friend in Carlos, Joe once again faces tragedy as he himself is suffering from punch-drunk syndrome, resulting in a permanent dysfunctional life. Understanding the pain his rivals went through, Joe acts as a symbol of both hope and martyrdom, as he faces the same trials as his rivals Rikishi and Carlos. Originally coming from the slums, Joe acts as an underdog, inspiring the common folk, but he also fights for the love of the sport as he is no longer the immature brat from the streets, but is a true man who cherishes honor and respects his fallen rival. The story of Ashita no Joe is about a wild beast becoming an honorable man. His once cold heart has melted, becoming vulnerable to love and family affection. Yabuki Joe may be a brawler, but his change of heart is what makes him manly, as he is both competitive and bears sorrow. While he no longer lets his past haunt him, accepting his sins, Joe fights for tomorrow. Not just for himself, but for his greatest friends Toro Rikishi and Carlos Rivera. It is the matches after Rikishi's death that makes Joe manly, as he's matured into a legendary boxer who is also another one of Japan's icons and had a huge influence to most sports series. Many people played a role into shaping his life, whether it be friend or foe. Everyone remembers Joe and his passion for boxing.